Think about the last time Genshin Impact added something that wasn't inconvenient. Well, we're gonna be here all day if you actually think about it. Well, actually, DG, the artifact loadouts were better than nothing and actually provide. Nobody cares. There is absolutely no way it can get worse from here. Genshin Impact has refused to catch a W since Fontaine. This downfall is beyond generational, and it's going to inspire future gacha games to avoid these practices. Genshin Impact has finally decided to give their take on a difficult in-game mode and ended up making even the most die-hard fans upset. Here we have a game mode where the hardest difficulty requires C6 units in order to clear within the time that they give you. And yes, that is not an exaggeration. You actually need the most powerful possible characters in the game to clear here. No skill expression with dodging or parrying, just a time limit. Now more than ever, Genshin's age is showing. It's scary to think that if new gen gacha games never came out, that more people could possibly have been defending this garbage, because that's just how it is. If you've been out of the loop recently, let me tell you, Genshin Impact is in the worst state it's ever been in. How is it that Genshin Impact seems to set themselves back even further every time? I think it can't get worse. Not only has Skirk been one of the most disappointing releases ever in Genshin Impact, being a clear sign of the direction they will go in with their newer characters, they've also found a new way to give you more FOMO outside of the gacha. At this point, it takes talent to be this greedy. So you know what I think? Genshin does deserve some praise. I've been very negative about the game lately, so let's give Dawe the props he deserves for being able to keep up his scam for this long. The newest addition to Genshin Impact is the Stygian Onslaught, an endgame mode that is focused on testing your wallet. I mean, a mode that has the most formidable enemies yet, with the highest health pools in the game. This is easily one of the most out of touch things I've ever seen from Genshin, and that's saying something. How are you gonna come up with a worse reward than a couple of pulls? Weapon skins have to be the worst reward in the game so far. Not only are they not character skins, which people have been asking for more of since the game came out, but there's some irrelevant weapon skins that you're barely even gonna see in combat, and you know there's no special effects on these things. At least with character skins, they're a lot more visible, and they can add some variety to otherwise boring looking characters that you've been looking at for years. But instead, here we are with weapon skins that arguably could cost more because of the ridiculous amount of investment you have to put into your characters. But don't worry, we'll get into that. The worst part about these weapon skins is that they're temporary. What's the point of even calling this a reward? Genshin actually would have been a better game without this new endgame. And let the whales have something has to be rage bait, so I'm not going to take that comment serious. Genshin Impact is a live service game. Therefore, player count matters, and you want new players in your game. The majority of players are free to play, and low spenders may be buying the monthly pass and the battle pass. So when the majority of players, especially new players, can't even attempt a whale game mode, then what is the point of putting time and effort into developing this garbage? When you put a ton of resources into one character, your reward is dominating the content that everyone else struggles with. There should never be a mode created to cater to a specific audience like this, because the game is already predatory as it is. If people are gonna spend money, they're gonna spend. There's already more than enough BS that will make players want to spend, like forcing inconvenience down your throat. Can we think about this for a second? Genshin Impact is unironically trying to rage bait you into spending money. You are not allowed to share artifacts or weapons among your characters when you start this new endgame. This should already be a thing of the past, but what do you know? Genshin Impact is setting us back years because they want you to resin refresh an entire new artifact set for your C6 R5 Hu Tao because you have to share one singular off piece. No new player is going to look at the amount of time and money you have to invest into the game at this point just to get a couple of extra mediocre rewards. Pretty much anything would be better than weapon skins, and the only thing that I can think of that would be worse is maybe a weapon charm. If they add that as a reward in the next update, I'm sorry for making the game worse than it already is. And you know what's crazy? There is a whole cutscene you have to go through before you can even get into this endgame. You know what would help mitigate this frustration? A skip button. You know, I'm assuming that Hoyo devs just get fired immediately as soon as they even mention a skip button. And I hate that I even have to mention an argument like, oh well, players won't appreciate the story if there isn't a skip button. As dumb as that argument sounds, it gets even worse when you realize Honkai Star Rail is adding a skip button. A new player does not want to go through mountains of dialogue just to get to the point where they can start playing the actual game. Just because you like something doesn't mean the majority of players will. If you like a word vomit story with no stakes, that's okay. But if most players don't, then soon you will be the only one playing this game. The refusal to innovate is insulting. It's not 2020 anymore. We're halfway through 2025. A skip button is mandatory. It's one thing if the developers of the game are scaring away its community, but why is the actual community scaring away its new players? Bigger Genshin Impact creators are finally speaking up against the obvious issues that have been in the game for years. And not even necessarily in an obvious way like I'm doing it right now because I don't care, but it's been very positive, constructive criticism for the most part. Take for example this creator stating his criticisms in a very nice way, but still getting hate, and he's getting the classic "you just have a short attention span" from the Genshin community. Things like having to know the lore prior to experiencing the story to know what's going on is what I thought to be a very obviously good criticism, but apparently that's not even valid to some. This is a casual game, and when you're getting caught up in all of the intricacies of this game, that can be hard to remember, but you have to be able to look at things from an unbiased perspective. I don't care about the lore of the game if it's presented like a book. If I wanted to read a book, I'd read a book. But I'm playing a video game, so show me what you're saying instead of just reading it to me in the laziest way possible. Even though Hoyo makes so much money, they could make Capitano and Mawika step outside of the screen and start fighting on my front lawn. Interacting with the community is a big part of some people's experience when it comes to playing a game. When they see that somebody is getting a barrage of hate just for calling something predatory, then it immediately turns them off. Whether you like it or not, the community for a game online is a big part of its growth. Your community does not grow when you aren't consumer friendly. Find me any sort of post saying that anyone wanted even more HP inflation on top of the already egregious power creep that's already taking place. This is what I think to be the most obvious sign that the devs are out of touch and are straight up not listening. Why is it that some people are always on defense when it comes to Genshin Impact? Nothing is perfect, so why would you defend mediocrity? Well, you know what? I think I know why you're mad right now if you play Genshin Impact. You probably forgot to mark your calendar last week to plan which days that you need to farm certain materials, because certain domains are only open on certain days of the week. Oh, and don't forget to schedule your weekly boss materials for this week too. There isn't any resin overflow, so if you have to get up in the middle of the night to meet your deadlines, then remember to set a couple of alarms just in case you might miss the first one. Okay, let me be fair and offer some friendly suggestions for this game. Besides a skip button, which does not need to be explained because it's as simple as clicking a couple of buttons. First off, these older characters need to be put onto the standard banner. Instead of trying to nickel and dime what's left of your player base with these garbage Chronicled Wish banners with higher pity, just put Venti on standard. It's actually not going to hurt sales that much. At this point, it's beyond greedy. Every character in 1.0 should be put on standard if you refuse to stop breaking the power ceiling of the game. Imagine trying to get into Genshin because you saw an edit of a character like Ganyu. Oh well, she comes out once every 2 years or so have fun waiting all that time. Don't tell me Genshin Impact is gonna sit on 150 characters soon and have their most recent character added to the standard banner be Mizuki, who is basically a cosmetic character. Next, we need exploration QOL for all regions. Not a singular limited time character that at C6 gives you the best exploration QOL the game has to offer. There needs to be faster flight, or at the very least, unlimited stamina outside of combat. And finally, make the daily system more convenient. I could be saying things like, get rid of the 50-50 on both banners, because the game already has enough money already, or give more pulls per patch. But I'm actually gonna keep it tame and simply suggest that a good start would be to make the daily grind feel like less of a job. A new player being years behind the rest of the player base will just quit knowing that they have to log on every single day to even have a chance to catch up, to even be able to attempt the end game. With the HP inflation being as bad as it is, the end goal becomes further and further out of reach the more time goes on. There's no good way to say this, but Genshin Impact is becoming a lost cause. The additions to the endgame recently have been increasingly worse and more laughable. The devs refuse to add simple quality of life that every other game has. They've abandoned the only thing they've done right in the past, being HP inflation. The community is constantly attacking anyone who criticizes the game, and there's even more competition just around the corner. As a new player in the gacha genre, there's pretty much no incentive to play Genshin Impact at this point because every other game does what they do, but better. Thank you so much for watching this far. If you have, you look cute today. Peace.